I've been asked to speak to you today about marketing charity events, and I've been working in the sector for more than 20 years. And in that time, I've been involved in marketing lots and lots of different events, from regional network meetings and open days to large in-person conferences and online conferences as well. This is how the session is going to go. Firstly, I'm going to talk about making a plan. So I'm a serial planner and a big believer that even a simple plan can have a really big impact on any comms activity. Next, I'm going to share what to talk about and when. And this is basically going to look at each section of your marketing from pre-launch to follow-up. And finally, I'm going to talk a little bit about testing and learning. So this will hopefully help you build on your success as you go along, and then also learn from anything that didn't go as well as you had hoped. Then, as Kerry mentioned, there's going to be time for some questions. If you'd like to pop those in the chat as we go along, I'll get to as many of those I can at the end. In terms of what I hope you will take away from this session, if you're new to event marketing, I hope it will give you a clear plan for promoting your next event. If you're a seasoned event marketer, I hope it will give you at least a couple of new ideas. Okay, so before I start, I just want to mention my free resources, as I'm going to refer to a couple of these as we go along. So just to give you a bit of context, as someone who obviously is passionate about supporting the third sector, I've been trying out different ways of giving back as a charity freelancer. When I first started freelancing 10 years ago, I thought that doing some pro bono work would be the best thing to do. But in reality, I could only give a couple of days here and there, which was obviously really appreciated by the organisations I was supporting. But it always left me wanting to do more. So after taking a year off to go travelling and having lots of ideas during lengthy bus journeys across countries, I landed on the idea of producing free practical resources that could be accessed by anyone. The first resource, which was focused on sharing content around Christmas and making the most of the season of giving, was a success. It had more than 100 people sign up to receive it, which I was really pleased with. So on the back of that, I've been producing 2 or 3 resources each year, all with the same aim, which is to provide really practical support for really tiny teams that are stretched for time. And a couple of those might be helpful for you today. So I've listed them here. So we have my event marketing template. Sorry, it's just a normal marketing plan template, which Kerry's going to share in the chat, and then event content for tiny teams, which is very event specific. The marketing plan, the information from that is going to form the first part of my session, and the event content for tiny teams and the roadmap of how you get from pre-launch to follow-up, that's going to essentially inform the second part of this session. As I mentioned, they can all be found on my website and they're going to be in the chat now. So if you do want to follow along, if you've got an event coming up that you're making some plans for right now, it might be helpful for you to download the marketing plan template and make some notes and ideas as you go along. I'll leave that up to you. Okay, so planning. I know it can be hard to find the time to make a plan, particularly when you're working in a really small comms team, and particularly if you have lots of events that are coming up. But as I mentioned, I honestly do believe that even making a very, very simple plan can make a big difference to your marketing efforts, as well as obviously keeping you on track and keeping you focused. For me, I think it just saves a whole lot of stress when it comes to actually deciding what to share and when as you go through each marketing stage in the run up to your event. So this is where this marketing plan will hopefully come in handy. And I've just mentioned the core sections here. I won't go through them. I'm sure you're all very familiar with those headings. Now, I am going to go through a couple of these sections now in a little bit of detail, but not too much because it might be a little bit boring for those of you who are producing marketing plans day in, day out. But I am going to cover the key sections and give a couple of examples, just for anyone who's new to creating a marketing plan or perhaps just needs a refresher. To bring this section to life, I'm just going to use an example event. This is similar to one that I've worked on in the past with a client, and it will just make it a bit easier for me to give you some proper insight. So our example event, sorry, as you can see, is an online launch event for a new research report. This report is going to look at the relationship between play and children's mental health. Okay, for our simple plan, I like to start with about three aims. And for our example event, they might look a little something like this. So, something about raising awareness about the issue that we're tackling with the event, something about what we're going to do in terms of bringing together relevant professionals to network, share ideas, to learn from each other, etc. And then also, because this is a report launch, we're going to want to drive interest in the report online and get it out to a wide audience. To bring these aims to life, I would then be looking to produce some SMART objectives that relates to each one. If you do need a reminder of what SMART objectives they are on the screen there, and mine are going to look a little bit something like this. So obviously something around the number of people we're trying to get along to the event, something around the success of the event in achieving what it set out to do. So how the percentage of attendees, for example, that found it a useful opportunity. And then again, something about driving interest across online, probably for the report in this instance. The dot 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 here obviously relates to the time bound part of these objectives, which I haven't put in these examples. But if this were my event plan, then I would be looking to put in some times by which I expect to achieve these objectives. Okay, so in objective one, I talk about target audience, and this is the next section that I'm going to work on in my marketing plan. For this example event, it might look something like this. So head teachers, school leaders, because obviously we're talking about children, healthcare professionals, because we're talking about mental health, and then academics, because obviously this is going to be a research report, so there's going to be some interest from academics as well. The final section that I'm going to go into detail in for this marketing plan is this table that I like to use to map out key messages per audience and make a note of the channels that I'm going to use to reach them. I just find this really helpful because it keeps my audience at the heart of everything that I do, making sure that I hit the key points for each one and tailor my messages accordingly. I have filled out the table for our example event just to give you an idea of what that might look like in practice. As Kerry mentioned, this will be available afterwards if you do want to deep dive into those examples. There are also some examples in the marketing template as well. But with the key messages, I mean, for any comms activity, I would normally probably be creating a messaging document that's a bit kind of more detailed than this. But in the interest of keeping our plan simple, I'm just going to use this space to jot down some very high level messages. So looking at the first audience, we're going to look at obviously looking at our head teachers and our school leaders. We're going to look at some messaging around how play supports children's mental health. We're going to look at how we understand the challenge that schools face in terms of like trying to hit all of their objectives. But we're also going to let them know that our report includes some easy action to advice for them. So yeah, if you haven't produced audience specific key messages for an event before, my tip would just be to really kind of try and drill down, into what the problem is that your audience is having and how your event can help them to solve that. Next, we're going to think about what the call to action is. Quite simply here, it's going to be to sign up to the launch event, but you might also have a secondary call to action, such as share with other head teachers you think might be interested. And then the channels that I'm going to use to share these messages with our key audience, our first key audience, are LinkedIn, our newsletter, and Facebook adverts. So just a really quick tip on how to choose your channels. I'm sure you're doing this all of the time, but just a bit of a reminder. Obviously, you want to think about where your audience is spending their time, either online or also in real life. So for our example, we know that senior leaders are likely to use LinkedIn, which is why we've listed that as a potential channel to use. Our organisation works with head teachers and school leaders, so they're going to have a big email list that they can utilise for this kind of marketing. And we also know that we can be really specific when it comes to targeting this demographic using Facebook's advertising tools. So that's why we've chosen those key channels for that specific audience. The final two areas that I would suggest including in your simple marketing plan are a calendar to plot out what you're going to share and when, and then a section that outlines what you're going to do in terms of testing and learning. Um, this will obviously help you to monitor how things are going as you go along, and also it will help you learn what's worked, and you can feed that into future events. Content calendar is something I'm sure you're all very familiar with, but in case you do need a hand producing one, there is one in the simple marketing template, as I already mentioned. And when we move into the next section, that's going to cover what to share and when. That's what you're going to plot into your calendar. So I won't talk more about that until then. And then obviously the final section, we're going to look more in detail at testing and learning. A couple more things to consider when you are at the planning stage. You can add these to your event marketing plan if you would like to, but I normally just have them as an item on my to-do list or in my event marketing project plan. And so the first one is around creating a visual identity for your event, using your brand guidelines to create a specific look and feel. That will help align it with your brand while giving your event its own visual identity. This can make it more memorable. It can give it a level of professionalism that will be attractive to sponsors, partners, and people that are potentially going to attend. Obviously, what this means in practice depends on the size of your budget. For big sponsored in-person conferences, you might engage a designer to create a look and feel and a set of assets that you can use across your various marketing activities on things like event banners, conference packs, that kind of thing. But for much smaller events where your budget is limited, you might be creating a suite of assets in something like Canva yourself. You might create graphic only content, like in our example here from Charity Comms, or you might want to use some imagery that helps bring your event to life, perhaps if you've run similar events before. If you don't have a huge image library, you can obviously look at using stock photography. I'm sure you're all aware of the various stock photography websites, but just as a reminder, you can get some really good free stock photography now on Pexels and Unsplash. Obviously, you need to pay for things like iStock, but they do have a huge, huge selection. But also Canva Pro has stock images that can be used in designs. And as you probably know, nonprofits can apply for a free license for that. And I've used Charity Comms as an example here. And again, I'm sure not you don't need an introduction to Charity Comms, but I think they do this really well. So they obviously run a lot of events and they create a visual identity around each one. So you'll see that when they're sharing on social media, they have a really kind of specific look and feel for each of their conferences, which I think works really well. The second additional thing to consider at planning stage is tracking links. Now, all of my clients use Eventbrite, and I'm sure a lot of you do too. And as you probably know, it's really easy to set up tracking links on this platform. Just go to the marketing section, tracking links, and then you can set up one for every different piece of marketing that you're doing. I like to set up a different link for each newsletter I'm sending out, links that I'm going to be sharing with partners and supporters, other platforms where I'm going to be talking about the event, such as my own website or partner websites as well. Talking of partners, there are something else to think about at the planning stage. So these are the organisations that are going to help you reach out to their network, sorry, to promote your event. This might be event sponsors, it might be other organisations that you work closely with, and those with similar aims and objectives. It's potentially also going to be your staff, your speakers, and anyone else that you want to promote your event. And when it comes to your partners and supporters and anyone that you're asking to share things about your event, I think it's really, really helpful to create a comms pack for them. At its most basic, this would include an image, so an image that promotes your event, and some template text for your various different audiences, so partners, speakers, staff, that they can use on their platforms to promote your event. Okay, so you've done all of your planning, you know what you want to say to who and when, you've got your marketing assets, your tracking links, so now you're going to map out your marketing activities. I like to look at this in these stages, which I've listed here below. So everything from pre-launch to 1 week after. So for each of these, I'm going to give you a really quick overview of what you might share at each stage and some example messaging, sorry, to help keep your content fresh. Okay, so pre-launch, ideally we want to be ready to start marketing our event to the public at least 3 months before it takes place. But I know this isn't always realistic. So if you've got an event coming up much sooner than that, don't panic. You're just going to follow the same process, but condense the ongoing promotion part. But yeah, in an ideal world, let's say you've got 3 months to go. The idea of doing a pre-launch is just to get a bit of excitement building on socials, to get people to sign up to your newsletter so they can be the first to find out when the event goes live, and to give any key partners, early access to event booking if that's relevant. So, with say a week to go before launch, you're going to share posts on social media and you're going to send an email to people who want early access. This is also going to be when you share your comms pack if you haven't done already with your speakers, sponsors, and anyone else that is supporting the event. In terms of your content, you might say things like, we've got an exciting event coming up soon, sign up to our emails to find out more, or, watch this space for more info coming soon, that kind of thing. Okay, so moving on to launch, this is going to be one of your most activity heavy days. You're going to share posts on social media, email your database, and send direct messages and emails to all of your contacts. You're also going to remind speakers, supporters, and staff that they can start sharing the information you've included in their comms pack. In terms of a focus for this piece of activity, you're going to say things like bookings are open, get together with colleagues, grab your ticket now. So, yeah, just lots of kind of positive messaging for launch. You could also share a second post later in the week, along the lines of, have you seen that we've got a new event coming up? We're over the moon, so many of you booked on already, that kind of thing. How much you share will really depend on obviously how much time you have and also how successful launch day was. So whether you feel that needs an extra boost a few days later. Okay, so before we move on, I just want to give a few of my top tips to help you get the most out of your event launch. So obviously make sure everyone is aligned on timing. So if you can get speakers, supporters, sponsors, etc., to share content on launch day, this is going to create more of a buzz if everyone's sharing everything together. Consider boosting one of your launch posts to get some good early reach and get staff to share posts where possible. This is probably going to be most likely for LinkedIn and X, as people are normally more willing to share on those platforms in a professional capacity, and make it as easy as possible for them to share as well. So obviously you might have shared a comms pack with them already, but even just share a link to one of your organizational posts that has gone out with some template text for them to use as well. So yeah, just make it as easy as possible for everyone to share about your event. Okay, so after launch day, you're going to want to keep up the momentum by sharing regular content with your followers, your subscribers, etc. The key I find here is to just have a plan for what you will talk about each week, so it doesn't become too repetitive. If you have launched your event 3 months before it's being held, then you're going to have around 12 weeks to promote it. So I've pulled together 12 ideas of what you could focus on to keep your content fresh. As I said, if you have less than 12 weeks, you can obviously just pick and choose the ideas that make the most sense and plot them in your content calendar accordingly. Also, you might feel like sharing something once a week is a little bit too much, particularly if you don't have a huge amount of other content going out on your social media or via your newsletter list, for example. So definitely share regularly, but do what feels right for you in your context. Okay, so this one is important. So people obviously know instantly whether the event is for them or not. So you could do a couple of posts covering each audience, or you could just include all of your audience in one post, whatever feels right for you. But you really need to say obviously who your event is aimed at. You might say things like it's for professionals working in the relevant sector, join colleagues from across the sector, and come together to network with fellow colleagues from. So you might be very sector specific, or you might mention key audiences by name. You're going to need to tell people why they should come to your event. So this is where you're going to use your key messages to tell your audience what they're going to get from attending your event and what they should expect to get out of it. If you're addressing a common problem or something that is topical, you're going to want to say that here. So you might say things like, we're bringing the sector together to get ready for the upcoming changes to, if there's something specific that you're going to be talking about, like I say, that's topical, or just join us to increase your knowledge of the subject that you're covering. Here, when it comes to your agenda, you're going to think about the items that have the biggest pull for your event and your audience. So, are you offering something exclusive, like a first look at a new report, or something practical, like a workshop that will arm your attendees with the tools they need to tackle a specific problem? You're going to say things like hear from speakers including, so thinking about the kind of big hitters you've got there, take part in practical workshops like giving some examples and why they're going to be important for people, or get a rare opportunity to talk to network with X, Y, and Z. So again, it will really depend on your agenda items and what the kind of biggest pull factors are for your audience. And just a quick tip here is obviously to tag your speakers, workshop leads, etc., when you are doing those posts on social media, so they can then share with their followers, which most people will obviously be very willing to do. So giving an update on ticket sales, that can provide some social proof. So telling people that lots of other people have already booked their tickets will hopefully encourage other people to book too. If you haven't had lots of ticket sales early on, then maybe leave this until you're happy with the amount of tickets that you sold before you start talking about giving people an update. You're going to say things like tickets are flying off the shelf. We're delighted so many of you have booked. Grab your ticket now so you don't book out, so you don't miss out. Sorry. So yeah, just creating a bit of excitement around that. So sharing what people have said previously about your event is a really good way of demonstrating its value to other people. If you don't have feedback from previous events, perhaps this is your first event that you're running, think about getting some quotes from speakers and staff to see so they can say what they're looking forward to. Just sharing different voices in any way that you can will give a different dimension to your event marketing. So depending who your quotes are from, you might say things like, we asked our speakers why they're excited, the team's looking forward to welcoming you because, or people who attended last year said this. You might want to think about asking people to do some short pieces to camera if that feels relevant, just to kind of mix up your visual content a little bit. Okay, so number six here, it's important to remember, obviously, with all of our comms, that we shouldn't just be shouting about what we're doing, and that it is important to try and engage people in your content as well. So I would do some posts for your event that are just about engaging with people that have already booked on, and that aren't so much of a hard sell. If you've got some friendly faces on your list, you could drop them a message and ask them to respond to get the ball rolling. And you might say things like, we can't wait for whatever your event is. If you've booked already, we'd love to hear from you. If you're coming along, what are you looking forward to the most? Or even just something as simple as, we're delighted so many of you are coming. Give us a thumbs up in the comments if you are joining us, that kind of thing. Okay, so your keynote, if you have a keynote speaker, I know that will obviously depend on the type of event that you are running, but if you do have a keynote, you're going to want to do some promotion that's just about them, particularly if they're high profile and respected within your sector. Make sure, as I said, to tag your speakers wherever possible, and then also maybe drop them a note to ask them to share. You might even want to give the keynote and other key speakers their own individual comms pack with various different images and pieces of text that they can use to share the fact that they're going to be talking at your event with their networks. You're going to say things like, we can't wait to welcome such and such. We can't, we're honoured to have this keynote speaker, or join us to get some exclusive insight from our keynote, especially if they are someone who doesn't potentially do this kind of thing regularly. As you get closer to the day, I like to start sharing my excitement about the event to build profile. Again, try and engage people who've already booked on, and don't forget to engage with any content that is being shared by delegates who are booked on as well. You're going to say things like, we've only got 3 weeks, 2 weeks, etc. to go. You're going to say who else is looking forward to coming along. You might want to ask people what they're looking forward to the most, or just that you're excited to see people in a few weeks' time, and the event is going to be coming to a screen, or coming to the location that it's being held at very soon. As you get closer to the event, and if you still do have tickets to sell, you can start to create a sense of urgency by letting people know that they don't have a whole lot of time to secure their space. This will hopefully encourage those who've maybe been thinking about joining your event, but they haven't booked on already. Hopefully, that will encourage them to finally make that booking. And you're going to say something like, last few tickets left, don't miss out, or we're almost sold out for. If you're thinking of joining us, book on soon so you don't, so you are able to get a ticket. And then letting people know when you have sold out will show how popular events are. So people are quicker to snap up a ticket next time, perhaps. It can also be a chance to let people know if they can watch the recording somewhere afterwards. And once again, you can encourage them to sign up to your email newsletter to find out when your next event is coming. You're going to say things like, I'm pleased to announce our event is now sold out. If you missed out on a ticket, you can join our waiting list if you have one set up, or the recording is going to be available on demand, or on our YouTube channel, or on our website, etc. afterwards. So once you're really close to event day, if you do have some tickets left, then you can again create a sense of urgency by sharing a final reminder with people that this really is the last chance to get their ticket. And we're going to say things like, we're excited to share we've still got a couple left. This is the last chance to grab your tickets, or get your hands on one of the remaining tickets that we have left for this exciting event. And then finally, once you've got a week to go, you might want to do a countdown to your event. You could share one or two posts or an email, or you could do a daily countdown on a platform that suits it, such as X or Blue Sky or Threads. The aim here really is just to about raising profile, sorry, rather than ticket sales, particularly obviously if you have sold out already. But again, if you do have tickets left, you're probably going to want to still mention that here. You're going to say things like, this time next week, we're going to be welcoming delegates. The team is working hard behind the scenes to get everything ready for you, or, the day before, it's tomorrow. If you're joining us, we'll see you then, that kind of thing. Okay, so that's my 12 ideas of what to post between your event launch and the day of the event. I really hope that they have given you some inspiration. So one of the things that I've always invested time in when I've been working on an event is on the day activity. So as well as everything in the run up, I think it's really great to have a plan for what you're going to say and do on the day. And what I really mean by this, I guess, is mostly on social media, but then you're probably going to want to use email as well as a follow up. At the very least, I would share or schedule a post to say the event's happening today, that you're looking forward to welcoming delegates. If you're using a platform like X or Threads or Blue Sky, you could share a little bit more, obviously, because it's usual to share um, more regular content on these channels. If you have the luxury of having someone who can be checking in and sharing on socials on the day, then that is obviously great. They can be looking for anyone that's posting about the event, and they can be replying and resharing as appropriate. Um, and if you have time after the event, I think it's really great to get a wrap up post out as quickly as possible. Just sharing the key takeaways from the event and saying thank you to everyone that has been involved. So in these kind of posts, you're going to say things like, we're looking forward to welcoming delegates today. Don't forget to tag us if you're sharing on social media. And for those of you who couldn't make it, we'll be sharing a wrap up afterwards, or you'll be able to watch the recording here, that kind of thing. Okay, so the day after, um, also a really important moment, to thank everyone and start gathering feedback. I would share a post again on social media channels to thank your speakers and your delegates and for everyone that came along. I'd also send an email to delegates with a link to a feedback survey if you have one. You're going to say things like, thanks to everyone who joined and to our brilliant team for making it happen. Help us make the next event even better by sharing your feedback. And thank you for our wonderful speakers for sharing their expertise and insight, that kind of thing. Finally, after about a week has passed, I would again remind people to share feedback. We all know that it's good to have that nudge. I would also share information about your next event if you have the details already, or at least tell people where they can find that. So again, signing up to your newsletter if you do have one. Um, you're going to say things like, be the first to hear about our next event by signing up to our newsletter. Now the dust is settled, we're excited to share the details of our next event, or we're already planning our next event, more details coming soon. So I hope you have found that helpful, and I hope it's given you some inspiration and some ideas for what to share and when you promote your next event. All of these ideas, plus a bunch of template content and even some template images, can be found in the event content for Tiny Teams resource. So yeah, I hope you find that really helpful, and particularly if you're a really small team working on lots of events, and yeah, just need that kind of extra bit of support. The final thing that I want to cover today is around testing and learning. Now, I know it can sometimes feel like a lot to implement a testing and learning plan, but as with the marketing plan, I really do think that spending even a small amount of time on this will help increase your marketing success in the future. So, to help get you started, here are just some examples of things that I might test. Obviously, messages, images, subject lines, sending times. With messages, this could be something as simple as using slightly different messaging in two different posts on one of your channels and seeing which one performed the best. You could use this method for images as well. And then if there is a clear winner, you could use that insight to inform the rest of your content. For subject lines, if you're using a platform like MailChimp, which I know many of you would be, then there's an easy A/B testing function built in. So each email you send, you can set up an A/B test, and MailChimp will automatically send to the section that performs the best. And for sending times, if you have a social media scheduling tool like Sprout or Hootsuite, you can use their recommended times. Meta also has a suggested time to post feature in their planner, or you can even do something as simple as just checking when your audience is most active. So, for example, this is really easy to access, like on the Instagram app. Just have a little look into your audience insight and see when your audience is mostly online. So it doesn't have to be this really kind of in-depth testing and learning plan. You can just be having a look at kind of some smaller things as you go along. But if you don't have time to do any of that, there are things that we already know that are based on the huge amount of data that is being gathered by social media scheduling tools, email distribution platforms, etc. These are things like generally the best time of day to send an email, or generally which kind of images perform best, for example, like images with people in them. Um, these obviously aren't a one size fits all, but they are a good place to start, particularly if you're really, really stretched for time. I've just given a couple of examples here of some articles which demonstrate what I've just talked about there. So something around the best time to send email blasts from MailChimp, which have loads and loads of articles because obviously there's lots of data on that subject. And again, from Sprout Social, they do lots of data reports as well. We covered tracking links in the planning section, but I think it's important to mention them in a little bit more depth here too. So if you are using tracking links, these are going to be really, really useful to help you see which posts, emails, partner activities, etc., are having the biggest impact on ticket sales. So use them in each piece of content and regularly check in to see how they are doing. You can adjust your plan as you go along. For example, if your emails to your database are driving lots and lots of signups and doing particularly well, you might want to allocate more time to doing more. Or if a specific platform isn't working very well, so for example, your Facebook posts aren't getting much traction, you might want to put your marketing efforts into another channel that is creating more signups. And then, as well as everything you're going to be kind of measuring and implementing as you go along, you'll also obviously want to do a review of your overarching marketing plan to see if you reached your objectives. Things I would look at would include your social media statistics. So I like to download all of the data and see which event posts, for example, got the most views or the most click-throughs or whatever the kind of metrics are that you find important. I then like to look at the top 10 and see if they've got anything in common. I can then use this learning to inform future marketing plans. So it might be that they used a specific type of image, or they might use a specific key message, or they might have been posted at the same time of day or on the same day of the week. So I'm going to use that insight to make my comms better in the future. Your follow-up survey is also going to be a really kind of rich source of data. So if you ran a survey after your event, include a question about where people saw the information about your event. Because obviously the tracking links are great if people see it and click on it and then obviously book straight away. But the reality is that people might see various pieces of your comms and then just go in via a random place that you haven't actually tracked. So they might just go straight to your website. So they're not always going to be really accurate. So it can be really good to ask people where they heard about your event. And this obviously also then helps you collect information if they heard about the event from someone else, or maybe they saw it because it was mentioned in the media. So yes, it's always a really good way of tracking success that didn't come through digital marketing. And then newsletter data. So, for example, if you send a series of newsletters, you could do a deep dive into that data to see which ones perform the best in terms of open rates, engagement rates, which links were clicked on the most. And again, I like to see which ones perform the best and try and make some kind of create some commentary around why I think that is the case, and then use that to learn for your next event. So before I finish, I just want to quickly recap and share my ultimate top tips for marketing your event. And they are: start early and make a plan, even a very simple plan like the one that we've gone through in this presentation. Recruit marketing partners and make it really easy for people to share. We all know how busy everyone is. I think the easier it can be, obviously, for people to share information about your event with their networks and harness the power of their networks, is to just kind of give them everything they need to do that easily. Share content that engages as well as sells tickets. This is just really important to make sure we're not just kind of like shouting about what we are doing and trying to encourage conversations and some deeper engagement. And then, yeah, measure success as you go along and learn from it. And even if you can do this in a very kind of small way, again, I think it's just those kind of gradual changes and gradual improvements that can really make a big impact. Okay, so I'm going to leave that there, and I hope that's been really helpful. I know it's been a lot of me talking, so I hope that yeah, I appreciate you sticking with me, and I hope that has been helpful for you and you've managed to get some insight for your next event. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, and I'm going to see if there have been any questions coming in. And also, obviously, just to say, if you've got anything else that you want to know, connect with me on LinkedIn, drop me an email, etc. Do feel free to get in touch if you've got any questions that haven't been answered once we get to the end here. So there's one question here around how we should be marketing multiple events that overlap. So someone here, they have annual events like free summer barbecues, afternoon teas, etc. And they say that if they marketed all events 12 months in advance, they'd be marketing something ahead of the other events coming up, if that, yes, if that makes sense. So how would I recommend marketing all of these events without filling our social media with multiple events? I mean, off the top of my head, potentially looking at having one space on your website, for example, where you have all of your events. So you could be looking to market your events in general and pointing people to an event page where they can look at which events they would like to come along to and which ones are relevant to them. Um, Also, I wonder if all of your events are specific to your whole audience or if they are actually some of your events would be only for a particular part of your audience. So if that was the case, maybe you could think about not promoting every single event through the same channels, that you could be looking to be really specific about your channels depending on which audience you're trying to reach. So that would just be a couple of ideas off the top of my head. Someone's asked to say a little bit more about tracking links. Okay, so like I said, most of my clients they use Eventbrite. And now Eventbrite has like a really easy to use tracking link system. It's in the marketing section, and you can essentially set up a specific link for each platform that you're going to use. So, for example, if I'm creating a comms pack that I'm going to share with my speakers, I'm going to set up a specific link that I share with them. So I'm going to set that up in Eventbrite. So all that Eventbrite's going to ask me to do is actually name the link. So I'm going to name the link speakers, and then it will create a tracking link for the specific audience that you can then copy and paste and then put into the communications for your speakers. So what's going to happen is my speakers are going to share that link on their social media. So when someone clicks on that link to book the event, Eventbrite is going to know that that's where that booking has come from. So again, in the back end of Eventbrite, when I look at my tracking links section, there's going to be some data listed next to that. So one of them is going to be around how many people clicked on that specific link. And the second piece of data is going to tell me how many people actually then went on to book. So I hope that's helpful. Again, happy to kind of have a wider discussion or show what that looks like in practice if that's helpful for anyone. Just drop me an email. Obviously, Eventbrite has these. I have tried out different booking platforms. I always come back to Eventbrite because I do feel like it's the most comprehensive. And they also have lots and lots of kind of help articles, etc., about things like tracking links and marketing generally. Okay, so someone asking about the best way to market with young adults when you don't have a budget for boosting posts. So I think, like I said, when you're mapping out your audience and your key messages, like thinking about which channels they're going to be using, and it will really obviously depend on the young adults that you're trying to reach. So you might want to think about whether there are any specific places that they hang out either online or in person. This probably doesn't relate to young adults, but as an example, maybe for older adults, it might be a Facebook group, it might be a community hub. So yeah, I think if you haven't got a budget to be like boosting posts to target a specific demographic, just try and think a little bit more carefully about where you're going to reach those people if they're not part of your core audience. So maybe if you don't have lots of that specific audience on your email list already, think about who might. So either people that you work with in the same kind of space who are doing work with that specific demographic. That's when you're going to want to think about who can help you share your event. So like if you've got someone who's working in this example with young adults in a similar kind of space, you could be asking them to share with their networks and harnessing the power of their networks, whether that's sending some posts on their social media, on their website, in their newsletter, etc. Okay, so someone asking about how to market a series of events. Um, so in this particular instance, they have three different council areas, sorry, three different events coming up, all in different council areas and about a month apart. So my advice on how to tailor promotion, again, I think it's going to be about where you share those events. So this is already, you've already got some very specific target information here that you've got three different council areas. So how do you get your information out in those specific areas? Are the local councils going to be up for sharing something? Are there local pages, again, like on Facebook or on LinkedIn, that you could use for these specific locations? Eventbrite, again, they have, if you did have some budget for advertising, they do have some, you can boost an Eventbrite post so it targets a specific location. So that could be quite useful in this instance. So yeah, I think about just tailoring the promotion for those events as location specific, because presumably they're going to be fairly similar for these different council areas. So yeah, just think about where you can get information out to those specific areas, I think would be a good start. So a question here from someone around using insights, whether that's through Meta or Google Analytics, and how it can sometimes be hard to unpick what that means, which I absolutely understand. I mean, there's so much information out there, that it can be quite hard to decide, what's the most relevant to me. Um, this is probably going to depend again on like what you're looking to improve on. So if you feel like your event didn't land as well as you thought it would, then was it not being shared in the right places? So if you are if you're looking at your social media statistics and, for example, your Facebook posts absolutely did nothing, and then you can maybe assume that like your audience isn't hanging out on Facebook. But yeah, so I would just try and like really kind of top level stuff. So yeah, just kind of looking at the basics. What were the top performing posts for your event? Did they have some stuff in common? Were some of them like miles and miles ahead in terms of success than other ones? So just kind of really try and look at those basic key things. Again, someone asking about tracking links, which is great because it's something that I'm really, really passionate about. So someone asking, can you use tracking links for a collection of events on Eventbrite? I don't think you can. I think I've looked into this recently because I work with a charity who does a lot of collections by area. And as you probably know, if you've had a look and you're setting up collections, there's really kind of a limited amount of things that you can do with those in the back end. So unfortunately, my knowledge is I don't think you can set up tracking links that point to Eventbrite collections. But yeah, be happy to be proven wrong on that because I would find that really useful for some of the work that I'm doing as well. Um, and then finally, just looking at this question here for any tips for promoting a one-off event, such as a charity fundraising gala dinner. I mean, I think for this, you've actually potentially got an advantage here if it is a one-off event. Obviously, we had someone asking a question about how to promote an ongoing series of events, which would potentially be more challenging. If you've got this one-off event and it's this really kind of like great opportunity to come and fundraise and everything else, and if it's quite kind of glitzy, kind of gala dinner, then I think that'd be something really that would be quite easy to kind of talk about on your various channels. So yeah, my main tip would be probably to follow the planning stage that we went through at the beginning of this session. So really kind of like try and map out your audience, your key messages, get all your partners on board to help you share that. So if you've got kind of special guests or celebrities or anything else coming along, then kind of really harnessing those networks. And again, if you've only got this kind of one event, then perhaps you can put more resource into marketing it. So maybe you can, start 3 months before, 6 months before, like give yourself plenty and plenty of time to promote it. So you can, so that can be as successful as possible. So I think that's probably it for the questions. I hope people don't mind finishing a little bit early. I normally don't. So yeah, if anything comes up that you didn't think of kind of just now, then do feel free to drop me a line. Like I say, I'm pretty much always on LinkedIn, so that's a really good way to contact me. Or if you share anything with Kerry, then she can get that to me and we can disseminate that to you afterwards. I know the slides are coming your way as well. But yeah, if there's anything else, then just please let us know. And yeah, thank you. Thank you for listening and for coming.